Well, we're going to have a knife review tonight, but first, since all knives are female, I'm going to draw a little analogy for you guys. Remember when you were young and stupid and all you really ever thought about, worried about, obsessed about, desired were women? You remember those days. Some of you are still living in them. But you remember, maybe you're at the job site and it's lunchtime and you're sitting on the bench and you're maybe working on a job downtown and it's lunchtime for all the women in the offices nearby too, and they walk by and you guys strategically plant yourselves where you're going to get maximum exposure, and they start walking by, don't they? And maybe an ugly chick walks by, just nondescript, like this rat one. Not really much to write home about, just solid, childbearing hips. And you guys don't really even look up from your bologna sandwich or your bag of potato chips to watch this one walk by, do you? And then, maybe a few minutes later, one like this goes by your field of view, this 3.5-inch laminated ZDP carbon fiber handled Spyderco Cali 3.5. This one you'll notice, won't you? You get the glint off that nearly polished high fine satin blade and that gorgeous carbon fiber. This one is going to elicit some looks, some rubbernecking, maybe some cat calls. Maybe you're going to say some things that maybe sound kind of stupid. But you don't care. You're not embarrassed. You're young. You're in the market, right? But then every now and then, not the plain girl, not the sort of hottie. Occasionally, you're going to see a girl on the sidewalk you've never seen before. And oh my, when this one walks by, you're not looking at your sandwich. You're not worried about whether you got barbecued or plain potato chips. You're not making cat calls. You're not showing your ace, as they say in Tennessee. You're sitting there with the rest of your buddies with your jaws dropped, tongues hanging on the ground, unable to speak because of the grandeur, the beauty, and the raw impressiveness of that girl walking past you on the sidewalk. Who is she? Well, we'll get to that. Stick with me, guys. Be right back. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 4 April 2016, and yes, we do have a knife review tonight, and it's going to be part knife review, part love fest. Let's rehash some personal knife collecting history before we get into this, shall we? You guys who have been around the channel for a long time know, if you've been paying attention, that my romance, my love affair, my passion for knives was ignited back in the mid-70s by this knife right here. That is the vaunted, classic, iconic Buck 110 folding hunter. With its brass frame, bolsters, end cap. I don't know if these were walnut or ebony scales. I think they might be ebony. This is a 1981 model. You guys have seen this knife before. But this was it. This was the knife that I first lusted after when I was but a lad. And part of, in fact, most of my my passion for this knife centered around this blade. This beautiful hollow ground, clip point, 3 5/8 inch blade. One of the sexiest things I had ever laid eyes on. Perfect in its proportion, amazing in its function. This is the knife I first fell in love with. She never broke my heart though, like the first girl I fell in love with. And ever since the Buck 110, I've been on a quest for the perfect modern clip point folder, the heir apparent to the throne of excellence occupied by the Buck 110. Now here's one. Here's one that gives it a pretty good shot. You guys know this knife. This, the Cold Steel Recon 1 in clip point. And again, a little broader, but still a perfectly proportioned clip point blade. Lots of belly on this one. But you know, it doesn't really have the glamour or the romance of the Buck 110. Yeah, I know you can buy Buck 110s at Walmart now. It's just not the same. This is a back in the day Buck 110. The Recon 1, though, kind of pedestrian, kind of practical. Extremely great tactical knife. By the way, the Buck 110, although it was called a folding hunter, was employed by many a redneck in a tactical role. We called them fighting knives back then. Yeah, no jumping, but still a fighting knife. No kidding, really. But, you know, we got brass and wood here. We got a beautiful satin finished 440C blade on this one. And, you know, this is just pure utility. You know, deep, grainy G10 that wears your pockets out. And Os 8, you know, just, okay. Great blade shape, though. And, you know, then... I know lots of people have tried, you know, Spyderco with their round hole, it makes it difficult for them to make a clip point Bowie style blade. They've tried and they've failed miserably. I'm sorry, but they have. You had the Navaja with that stupid ratcheting pivot mechanism that always failed in about a week, and then you had the ill-fated, ugliest Spyderco ever. Shemp American Bowie with its coffin-shaped handle and horrible ergonomics and just a hideous blade. Then you have the Swish Bowie, which is a beautiful blade, but the clip starts pretty far back. It's not that pronounced, and you can't really open it left-handed with your thumb, which is, you know, that's not good. You know, Benchmade, they really haven't made a lot of clip point blades. Not good looking ones anyway. SOG has made some clip point folders, but again, this out of proportion and wacky looking. Hinderer has made a Bowie blade style in their XM18. Again, proportions all wrong. Guys, this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay? Or this. This is what it's supposed to look like. And they're different, but the proportions, it's all about the proportions that makes a clip point look right. Well, some of you saw this, but you know, there weren't a lot of SHOT Show knife videos this year. But this one, oh, guys, from Benchmade. You see what I mean? Look at the proportions of that beauty. This, of course, is, as you know from the title, the Benchmade Crooked River. Yes, the Crooked River, the 15080-2. Yeah, that means there's a -1. We'll get to that. In their Hunt series of knives, interesting. Folding Hunter, Benchmade Hunt series. wood, brass, orange. We'll talk about that as we go. I think that's very cool from Benchmade. Look at that thing, would you? This is one of those knives where if you looked up 21st century modern folding knife in the dictionary, if you could look up 21st century modern folding knife, you could very well see a picture of this, couldn't you? It just says knife. And it says it beautifully. Just beautifully. Oh, guys. You know what I didn't measure? Before I get deeply into the character of this knife, I'm going to give you some dimensions. I forgot to measure the stock thickness of the blade. It's more than an eighth. I guess it's not. It is an eighth. Okay. Blade length. 4 inches listed. I measure it a tick under that, but they're all different. You guys know that. Sharpening is not an exact science. Handle length is 5 3/8 inches. Overall length, 9 3/8. Thickness of the handle is about 5/8 of an inch. The weight listed at like 5.3 or 5.4 ounces. I measure this at 5.1 ounces. Thick stainless steel liners, aggressively drilled out to save weight. Thick stainless steel liners. 4-inch blade of CPM S30V steel. And only 5.1 ounces. Okay, let's continue. Materials other than this blade and these thick stainless steel liners. The bolsters on this knife are 6061 aluminum, hard anodized, but this is a fooler of a finish. Can you see this? Let's come in close, try to get a little glint, a little reflection. That doesn't look like that grainy, chalky 940 anodized finish, does it? This stuff looks stone washed. This looks like sort of a dark gray, sort of smoky, stone washed titanium, but it's not. It's aluminum, believe it or not. I bet you this stuff is going to wear like iron. Then the scales. And this is where we probably ought to bring in the other one, the 15080-1. 2 different versions. The first production run was the -1. This is a customer knife, by the way, in line for sharpening. It doesn't look like the pictures if you've seen this. And frankly, I was just a little disappointed when I took it out of the box. The beauty of those bolsters is kind of washed out, I think, by this gray G10 that's almost the same color. It looks, in pictures, in advertisements, this G10 looks darker. One of the reasons I bought this one is because I wasn't wowed by the appearance of this G10. You guys might like it. It is, texturally, it's different. Maybe it's enough contrast for you. It just left me wanting a little bit. And that's really the only difference in the knives. So let's move on here. Now, we have this anodized orange aluminum pivot collar, which is becoming sort of common on Benchmade offerings. Gives it a little pop of color. Our standard Benchmade axis lock thumb stud. No reason to reinvent that wheel. It works perfectly. Axis lock mechanism. And it's sort of the larger hardware. I think the same size as the Ergonomics lock bar and stop pin, large. That's probably 140 thousandths lock or stop pin. And then this gets interesting. As of the date I ordered this, when they were actually in stock, the scales were listed as being made of stabilized hardwood. Now you guys might have seen some not yet in stock listings for these knives that called it diamond wood. Diamond wood is a stabilized laminated wood, or sort of like a plywood, many thin layers laminated together under pressure with a stabilizing resin that makes the wood very hard and very impervious to the elements. This is not diamond wood. I'll try to come in and get you a macro with some light, maybe. You don't see laminated layers, you just see edge grain. So this is a stabilized hardwood product, very similar to what Bark River uses on their fixed blades. And stabilized is a key component of these wood scales, because look how thin they are at the corners. They're 3D machined, contoured, and super comfortable. But look here, lanyard hole, thin wall, thin stock thickness. This stuff is going to be put to the test. I'm not sure yet. These are brand new. We're not sure how they're going to hold up. I have half a mind to order a set of scales from Benchmade. I probably will do that just to keep in case these break somehow. Okay. Now you noticed something, didn't you? If you guys have been waiting for this review and you've been looking at these knives online, you know something's not right here. Don't you? Yeah. We have a gear pattern G10 backspacer. The one on my knife complements nicely the wood scales. Even complements that sort of burnt orange anodized pivot collar. It didn't come this color, it came this ridiculous color. I don't even know if the camera does this justice, but this is the same orange G10 that you find on the Benchmade Triage, that sort of safety orange, and you can't tell in this light, but it clashes with this pivot collar, something fierce. This is that orange that's super bright. You could find it in pitch black darkness, and it shows dirt immediately, and it's very hard to clean. And I just thought, on a knife that's sort of this demure, I needed to do something that really went with my wood and didn't make the knife look so garish. I mean, can you imagine that? Having that ridiculous orange thing. I was going to try to live with it, and I had the knife for a day, and I just kept looking at that every time I turned it. That was horrible. I just had to get rid of it. So that's about 40 minutes in water and vinegar, Rit dark brown fabric dye. And that G10 it's very difficult to take the color. So I'm glad I went with the dark, because it almost matches the lighter areas of my wood, which it's perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for. So moving on. Let's talk about the nature of this knife. I think we've covered all the materials we need to cover. We know what an axis like Benchmade looks. Oh, and you know what? It's almost like they thought, we're going to make Rob buy a knife, isn't it? We're going to make a knife he can't not buy. We're going to give it a blade that sort of emulates a buck 110. We're going to put wood on the handle, and then we're going to put on a Parkerized split arrow clip. It wouldn't have mattered how much the knife cost. I'd have bought one. By the way, about $178.50 at the online retailer of your choice, and you'll be the owner of one of these beauties. All right, now let's talk about how the darn thing works, shall we? Not a super thinly ground blade. In fact, kind of interesting, I haven't sharpened this customer knife yet, but it might be a little thinner than mine behind the edge. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, not super thin, so I went with a little more obtuse angle than I usually do. This one's sharpened at 17 degrees per side with the little kiss of a 20-degree micro bevel. I think it still cuts though. It does. Nicely, as a matter of fact. I love the way Benchmade does their S30V. Well, they heat treat all their seals very well, actually. Look at this. Have they been listening? Has Benchmade been monitoring the Apostle P channel? Look at that. No choil work done on this knife. We are straight and true all the way to the back. The choil ending past the bottom of the plunge grind. And look at all that beard. There is a 1/4 inch of blade in height from the bottom of the choil to the cutting edge. Great job, Benchmade. That's how it ought to be, right there. Yes, sirree. Let's talk about balance and feel. Oh gosh. Let's look at the balance point. Memory serves, it's right there, right in the finger groove. So it's only a 5.1 ounce knife, full size folder, 4-inch blade, 5 3/8 handle, 5 3/8 inch handle with the balance point right on the index finger, right there. Boy, did they get this right. In hand, it's like nothing. It's like nothing. And it's superb in all grips. In the saber grip, bang, it is right there. You know, it's got typical Benchmade jimping, more of an indexing point than anything that really holds your thumb. You know where it is. You know your thumb's in the right position when you can feel that, but it's not going to keep the thumb from going forward. But you know what? It doesn't need to. We got a full-size handle. We got a grip with our back 2 fingers. We got a nice deep finger groove. I guarantee you can stab whatever you want to stab with this. You're not going to have to worry about going forward on that blade. No jimping better than this is required, I don't think. You come to the hammer grip, it's just rock solid. It's super comfortable. I know the clip is there, but it's not remotely uncomfortable or creating a hot spot with these 3D machine contoured handle slabs and radius corners. There's just no hot spot on the knife. I flip it to the draw cut grip again. Ring finger falls right in the swale of the clip, so it's not bothering me. The point is between my middle and ring fingers. If I go to that sort of vertical draw cut grip, the pommel of the knife buries right here in this fat part of the outside of my palm. I got a super strong pull grip there. It's just great. If I go reverse grip, because it could be a tactical blade if it didn't have wood scales, couldn't it? Even though it's in the Hunt series and the box even has wood grain on it. Huh. Could you maybe do a Cerakoted M4 blade with carbon fiber scales, maybe some blue standoffs and a blue pivot collar, and make it a blue class knife ship free exclusive? Yeah, maybe you could. Derek, I need you, brother. Okay, every grip is phenomenal. It's just guys, this knife is an instant classic. It's just an instant classic. I love it. Now, let me get to a couple negatives. We already covered one, but you can fix it. Here's the other one. Both of these knives out of the box came with the show side. I guess this would be the lock side if it were a frame lock, but the right side of the knife, this scale sort of shifted upward, so it was a little proud of the bolster on both of these. Here's the deal on these. The bolster is attached with a screw, a pivot, and then a tab with another screw going into the frame that's buried underneath the wood scale. The wood scale is attached with 2 teeth that fit into grooves, or tongues that fit into grooves in the aluminum bolster, and then the the body screws and pocket clip screws hold them onto the frame. Notice we've got a sort of a free-floating backspacer, but we have barrels that go all the way through one scale and both frame slabs. It does not extend, the barrel does not extend into this this scale at all. So when you take these two screws out, this scale just falls off. And frankly, with the thinness and the proximity of the holes to the edge, I don't think you want to get real aggressive tightening these down. So you just kind of put them where you know. I adjusted them so they're flush top and bottom, and gingerly tightened them down. You know, if there is a weak point or weak link in this knife construction, it is the scales, especially on the wood model. You know, the G10, a little tougher stuff, I think. Book's sort of still out on these stabilized wood scales. I don't know how they're going to hold up. It would almost, well, if I were going to overbuild this knife, I would take this screw out from underneath the scale, and then I would countersink. I would countersink a through hole right here in the wood scale, and give it a positive point of attachment up here by the bolster. You'd see another screw head, and that, I don't know. I think it's fine the way it is. Here's one thing I think is kind of neat about the knife. Big old stop pin screwed in. And when you're adjusting the pivot on this knife, you can sort of, almost like a paramilitary 2, you can sort of fine tune or tweak that action, that balance between freeness and horizontal play or side play by adjusting the pivot and this screw. If you go full tight with these stop pin screws, you'll pinch the blade. So there's a little adjustment built in there, which I kind of like. It really lets you get the action on this big old 4-inch clip blade how you want it. This one's just how I want it. I think this might be, man, I like this knife a little better, I think, than I like the Knife Ship Free exclusive M4 Striker with carbon fiber scales. I like the whole package of this knife, the bones of this knife, better than the Striker. What a capable hunting blade. What a great tactical knife if you want to use it for that. And before I end this video, I want to give you some objective reasons why I so love the clip point. Well, I love the clip point, and for so many reasons, because it does so many things well. You have belly for slashing, for slicing. You have great spine strength because of this large area of full stock thickness flats that extends, you know, almost all the way to the tip, depending on the design of the clip. So once you shove the tip in between two things you want apart up into this flat region, you've got a great prying tool. So you got a great slasher, a great slicer, something with spine durability for prying. You've got a straight ahead, sort of middle of axis forward tip. It's not going to drill as well as a spear point, but it's certainly going to stab as well as a spear point. You know, for drilling, you need that spine to emulate the backside of your drill. Can you drill with this in a pinch? Yeah. And by the way, if you're employing the clip point as a fighting knife, it'll cut on the back cut, even without a sharpened swedge, because of the upswept tip and needle sharpness. It's just my favorite all-purpose knife blade. And oh, by the way, did I mention? It's just drop dead gorgeous. So, guys, whether you are modern folder dude or whether you are old Buck 110 dude who's entered the modern age, there is a Crooked River for you. And I would stay tuned, I think, for different materials and maybe even a mini from Benchmade, because this is a full-size knife. Look at all that handle sticking out in that hammer grip. Oh, by the way, here's a grip we didn't cover. In the forward pinch grip, or One Else Pub Samurai grip, the knife is absolutely amazing. Just a great knife handle and a great blade and a great mechanism with great steel from a great company. 10 out of 10. That's all for tonight, even with defects. 10 out of 10. As shown, 11 out of 10. That's all for this one, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and my Benchmade Crooked River are sharp.